Suddenly Joe felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned around to see the woman with red hair standing beside him, a brown tabby cat poking its head out of her purse. "Hello," she said. "Perhaps I can answer your questions." As soon as she had said those words, she began walking towards the other end of the store. Joe felt thoroughly confused, but fell in line and followed the woman. She was rather short, around 5.5 feet tall, but her pace was quick. Joe had to hustle to keep up with her. He wasn't sure, but he guessed that she was a few years older than himself, in her mid-50s or so. Her dark red hair was short and curly, and it gave a slight bounce as she walked. Joe wondered if it was dyed and styled that way or if it happened naturally. It was tough to tell. As she continued to walk forward, the cat in her bag turned around to look backwards, watching Joe's every move. That cat must be 20 years old, Joe thought, as he followed them past rows and rows of books. There was a small couch near the back of the store, and when the woman sat down, Joe did as well. "My name is Hannah," she said. "What can I do for you?" Joe let out a chuckle and shook his head. "Well, it's nice to meet you," he said. "You know, sometimes I get nervous when I meet a new person, but I've never been nervous about whether or not I get to meet the person." "Yes, well, I like my privacy," she replied. Her brown eyes watched him with an unblinking sternness. Her look wasn't harsh, nor was it inviting. A look of scrutiny, perhaps? "I can respect that," Joe said. "As a man who spends his time digging up secrets, I also understand the need to sometimes keep them." "Some people create secrets out of shame or embarrassment," Hannah said. "But some of us keep them out of necessity. Similar to a suit of chainmail, each secret we create is a small link of protection. The more links we create, the safer we become." "And you need protection?" Joe asked. "From who?" "From those who might destroy us," Hannah responded. "Do you think our wonderful subculture of zines simply flourishes on its own, Joe? This is an age of digital technology, right-wing fascism, and an upswing on the banning of books, yet somehow zines thrive." Joe took a deep breath and absorbed her words. She wasn't wrong. "There are more active zine makers today than at any other point in history," Hannah continued, "and that is no mistake. It is not a coincidence. It is because people like me and people like you work hard to create this culture, to preserve it, protect it, continue it, and to enjoy it. But there are those who would prefer we fail. We must never let that happen." A moment of silence sat between them as Joe tried to decide what he should say next. Hannah seemed a bit dramatic, but he understood her point. Plus, she had done an excellent job of encouraging his curious nature. Joe had always loved puzzles and riddles, even as a child, and this woman was certainly puzzling right from the start. Still, he sometimes wished that just once he might have an easy assignment. Heaven forbid he just walk up to a place, knock on the door, and be allowed inside. Hello everyone, how are you? That was a short passage from my new novel, taken from chapter 2. I've been working on this novel since January. I wrote the rough draft in about 6 weeks, and I've been editing since then. So since March, it's now the end of May, March, April, and May. For about 3 months I've been editing. I'm doing my final read-through, final round of editing, so the writing is almost done. I've been withholding information because I've been sorting out everything I want the story to be. So I haven't really talked. I've said that there's a project, but I haven't really said what it is. So I'm beginning to tell you what it is. Let's start with the title. The title of the novel is Chicago Joe and the Ancient Pages. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this, but over the next couple months, I will be posting more videos and talking more about it as it gets closer to actually being finished. The idea came about after my partner and I watched a lot of Indiana Jones movies. Like in 1 week, we watched like all the movies. They're really fun. They're not really that good. I don't really like them, but I like watching them, if that makes sense. And we were talking, wouldn't it be funny if instead of searching for like the long lost artifact of some ancient culture and then like stealing artifacts from other cultures, what if it was an adventure to find something like from our culture? And so what is my culture? My culture is zines. And so I started thinking, like, what if he was hunting a zine? What if he was going on this adventure to look for zines? So I'll just admit that this entire story was based on Indiana Jones. It's pretty obvious, so there's no reason to hide it. I might as well just let you know. It's called Chicago Joe in the Ancient Pages, and the main character is a guy named Chicago Joe who loves Chicago and is from Chicago, and he's looking for a long-lost zine. He's looking for an original copy of a long-lost zine. The book has secrets, it has secret passageways, it has booby traps, it has conflict, it has a bit of a love story, it has some double crossing, all the things you would expect. This is a campy, silly story, not to be taken too seriously. It mixes some real life true zine things, like real titles of real zines will be mentioned throughout the book, but it also has some very made up fake histories of, I was just like, what if this guy knew this guy, and what if those guys were friends back in the 80s, and what if they did a zine, so I made up some bullshit and also laced in lots of truth, and you're not really going to know which is which, but hopefully it all leads to a good story. I think it's funny. I think it's exciting. I think it's suspenseful. I think people that are familiar with zines are gonna love it. I think people that are not familiar with zines will still enjoy it. I think it's still an adventure story. It's like a pulp, fantasy, sci-fi kind of. Not that it's a sci-fi, but like that genre. Like when you go to like a used bookstore and there's just 1,000 books with authors you've never heard of and ridiculous titles and amazing cover art. Like that's what I'm going for. It's going to be, this size, paperback, color cover, some illustrations on the inside, and it's going to be about 300 pages long. To let you know where I'm at in the process, I'm doing my final edits. I should have the completed file within a week. I have 2 illustrators that I'm working with that are going to be doing just a few, like one drawing per chapter, just to help along with some visuals. I have someone that's working on a cover. The illustrations will probably be done in the next month or so. I'm hoping to have everything done by end of July, beginning of August, so that it'll be printed and done sometime in August. So it's May now, so we're looking at 2-3 months. Hopefully we'll have a finished book. I think it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited to put it out, and I hope everybody likes it. Stay tuned, more to come. That's all I have for you tonight. Have a good one.